Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to my session today. I am Hsia-Cheng Sandrine, also known as Christy Hendrick in Second Life. Today, I'm going to talk about lessons learned from a grade 7 virtual world science workshop. First of all, I'm starting with the introduction. With the improvement of technology, more and more K-12 teachers are using advanced technology for teaching different subject areas. Virtual world is one of the advanced technologies currently used in the field of education. Much research has focused on using virtual world for education, and this research has shown that using virtual world in education can increase students' motivation for learning. This research is a participatory observation case study for teaching grade 7 science students in a virtual world environment. The research question is, how do young students interact with a virtual learning environment? Literature review. Virtual world are visualized 3D computer interfaces. Virtual world provides better quality graphical environment user interfaces than other computer-generated online interfaces. The virtual world is unlike other media in that it does not rely on a series of predominated point of view. Residents of a virtual world can move around, and the visual representation of the virtual world is determined by that movement. Virtual worlds are the nature extension of 2D technology. Residents can interact with other residents as they do in the real world. In the virtual world of Second Life and OpenSea, residents can create their own 3D avatars through their own visual environment and have their own virtual movements. The border of the real world and the virtual world is defined by the production, reproduction, and imagination of virtual world users. Researchers state that the virtual world reminds us that we are not just organisms, we are organisms constituted by our interactions with our environments. Increasingly, those environments are artificial. The formula Solucci suggested is suspension of disbelief plus time equals reality. In virtual worlds, we are not just interacting with machines, we interact with people through machines, therefore we are cyborgs. The cyborg is a condensed image of both imagination and material reality. The two joint centers structured any possibility of historical transformation. Because of the visual interact incentive, virtual worlds have become a new field of core education, and online learning has tremendously benefited from them. When rethinking virtual world as an educational concept, virtual world becomes not just a delivery system, but a learning space. This rethinking helps us recognizing the learning places as potential sites for collaboration and communities of learners, and not just individual achievements. As well as recognizing the face-to-face classroom as it is currently constituted by no means necessarily more human or authentic than alternative learning spaces. Learning activity in the virtual world allows students to interact with information from a first-person perspective. However, as researchers state, meanings are embedded in practice. Compared with learning activity using minds-on approach, students can use hands-on practice to uncover more layers of meaning from their conscious doing. As Burbules states, behavior change is caused by interaction in which external events support the internal learning processes within specifically defined environments. One of the virtual world, Open Simulator, is valued by educators because it creates an educational environment only controlled by its administrator and only occupied by its participants. All students' interaction and chat records can be retrieved for data analysis for students' behavior. In addition, not like other hard-coded educational games, OpenSim is organic software that can be changed at any time. That is to say, whenever part of the content needs to be changed or improved, this can be easily done. Since the OpenSim server is maintained by the educators and users' activity can be retrieved, cyberbullying and inappropriate, violent, or sexual behavior can be monitored by educators. If an inappropriate behavior appears, users are able to report it, and educators are able to ban or report the related account. Use of virtual world for education is a topic of interest today. This research created a science laboratory in the Open Simulator for virtual commons for education and research. Research methods. This study addressed the research question, how do young students interact with the virtual learning environment? And this study used the research method of participatory observational case study. Observational case study focus on how observational data can be used to answer each research questions. Observational studies are common in most fields that study the effects of treatment or policies on people. Participants' observation is useful with a small group for event processes that take a reasonable short time, for activities that are accessible to observers. When your prime motivation is find out what is going on, and when you are not short of time. One of the most important observation model is Stratey's model of observation, which addresses space, actor, activities, object, acts, events, time, goal, and feelings. Case study can be used to accomplish various aims to provide description, test theory, or generate theory. According to Stratey, case study is the study of the particular particularity and the complexity of single space, coming to understand its activity within the important circumstance. There are different types of case study. In this case, the research used a community study. This is the study of one or more local communities. It describes and analyzes the pattern of and relations between main aspects of community life. It is commonly descriptive, but may explore specific issues or be used in theory testing. As Cheng states, participant observation occurs when we enter a setting and become involved in two ways. First of all, we are acting as observers. Second, we are attempting to work our way into these settings as active participants. In this research, the researcher is the observer, as well as the creator, designer, and assistant of the virtual class. As researcher notes, the foresee in organizational study typically are the following: a particular place in the organization, a specific group of people, and some activity of the school. This research focused on the activity of the specific student group who use the virtual world to learn science. Introduction to the project. I, the researcher of the project, am the administrator of Virtual Commons for Education and Research. This server for research is located at the University of British Columbia and is maintained by my startup funding. In early December 2013, one doctoral student, Sunny, this is her pseudonym, approached me and told me she intended to use a virtual world for teaching a science workshop. I knew from previous experience that Sunny looked at the virtual world critically and was not a fan of virtual world. I was surprised but also glad that she wanted to give the virtual world a try. Sunny told me she was in contact with the local elementary school and wanted to have a 3-day science workshop with the students in February 2014. She wanted to use the virtual world to teach science, specifically chemistry, in a 1-day class. She also told me there would be 6 volunteers to assist with this project. Since Sunny has no experience in the virtual world, I told her one of the volunteers a basic virtual world browser setup, a basic navigation, and basic creation. I showed her the online video tutorials and handouts as well. The Virtual Commons for Education and Research is a standalone open simulator and hosted on a virtual server at UBC with Windows 2008 R2 operational system due to Intel CPU and very nice memory. In the VSER, currently there are 32 regions with 177 registered users. From previous workshop experience, I knew the maximum number of online users should not exceed 20. Since there were 27 students with unknown previous experience using Virtual World, I suggested putting students in groups of 2 using the same avatar. I created 8 boys avatar and 8 girl avatars with identical outfit and appearance for this workshop. In our following emails, we discussed the best kind of science project for students to do in the virtual world and the possibility of applying this project. I reject some science projects proposed by Sunny, not because of their applicability in the virtual world, but because I believe that if students are able to do the same project in a real classroom setting with hands-on experience, they should have the hands-on experience. Therefore, our final decision was to use 6 experiments, 3 associated with fire or an explosive possibility, and 3 use acid solutions. The experiment included egg floating and shrinking, egg enlarging and shrinking, and improvised fireworks, and fire without matches, volcanic eruptions, and eggshell dissolving. Since Sunny was creating objects and learning about the virtual world from different students' avatars, I needed to open all building restriction to all avatars for her to be able to move, copy, and modify things I created. Creating simulated science experiments in virtual world requires multiple virtual world skills, such as building, texturing, and scripting. Sunny was willing to spend the time and effort to create a simulated experiment. However, due to lack of time and experience, Sunny was not able to construct the experiment. Therefore, I constructed the virtual object for simulation, and a professional programmer helped us write scripts to make the simulation work. After the experiment was set, I did not double-check with Sunny regarding the course content because I believe that given her experience as a science teacher, she would be able to lead the workshop. The day of virtual workshop, observational case study. Students arrived at UBC in the morning and did several hands-on experiments in the real-world science lab. I restarted the server early in the morning looking for a stable server. At 11 o'clock, I went to the computer lab praying for improvement of the technical problem. After I arrived at the lab, Sunny told me there was a technical problem and she was not able to log in. While I was trying to resolve the problem, the fire alarm sounded. We all have to evacuate the building. Using wireless internet and my notebook computer, I tested the system and I found I was able to log into the virtual world without a problem. About 15 minutes later, we were allowed to go back to the building. However, all the students were also now entering the lab. I quickly logged in to all 16 accounts for students and tried logging into my own account at the teacher's station. When students arrived, I noticed that they did not look like the 3rd grade students Sunny had described me months ago. They looked much more mature. It was also obvious that these students were coming from diverse cultural backgrounds. The first thing one of the students said when entering the computer lab was, "Wow, what is this? It looked like Minecraft. Cool." After they all were seated, I noticed my own avatar was not able to access the virtual experience laboratory region with the students. While I tried to enter the virtual experiment laboratory, I suggest that Sunny let the student know what they would be doing in the virtual experiment laboratory today. After I relogged into my account, I finally was able to reach the virtual experiment laboratory and show the student what they would be doing in this area. In my previous experience, it takes about 2 hours for adult learners to learn how to navigate their avatar in the virtual world. Prior to the workshop, I told Sunny it might take about 30 minutes for younger students to learn how to navigate their avatar and interact with the objects. However, before I joined the student in the virtual experiment laboratory, surprisingly, without any instruction, all students were able to walk and fly around, interacting with objects, communicate with each other using their avatar name with public chat function, and even modifying objects. I was stunned. I saw students greet each other, teaching each other, and learning from each other. They were clicking around to see what would happen. Some of the students found the website open on their computer with the tutorials on how to navigate and build in the virtual world. They have started to watch the tutorial and apply what they learned in the virtual world. Because students wanted to different things with their avatars, the whole class became one learning organism as they learned from and taught each other. I hope to observe more on how they were interacting with a virtual learning environment. However, since their goal in this class was not modifying their avatars and creating virtual objects, I had to ask them to stop doing so. When I saw that the 6 volunteers were not guiding the students, I asked them why. Some of them told me that this was their very first time seeing the virtual world and they were amazed. And one group of students complained to me that they had been logged out of their account more than one time. I then noticed that volunteers were trying to use the same account to experience the world. We planned to have one volunteer undertake 3 avatars, that means 6 students, to use the virtual experiment learning stations. However, since the volunteers were not trained, the students were not doing what we had planned for them to do. Many students were trying to use the same experiment learning stations at the same time. Because the experiment needed time to work and reset, as in real-world laboratory, when more than one avatar clicked on the same experiment learning station, the experiment would not work. The student couldn't understand what was going on and why the experiment was not working correctly. They soon get bored and started to traveling around the virtual world, modifying their avatar or creating virtual objects. At 12 o'clock, Sunny told me it was time for them to have lunch. The students had by themselves learned how to send private message to me to thank and say goodbye. Before they left, some of the students said this was fun and some asked if it was possible for them to get into the virtual world by themselves from home. After the workshop, I talked with Sunny and learned these are the grade 7 students aged 12 and 13. She said she planned to teach the volunteers what to do and how to do everything prior to the workshop from 11 to 11:30. However, we were evacuated from the building during that time period. Discussion. This was my first time observing young age students interacting with virtual learning environments. My previous experience has been with adult learners from undergrad students to professors. Even though the entire workshop was only 45 minutes long, it provided me with intriguing data and experience. Due to the fire alarm evacuation, Sunny was not prepared to teach students how to navigate and interact in the virtual world. However, In less than 5 minutes, all the students learned to use the arrow keys to control their avatars, and some students even learned to fly. They spread the word on how they navigated their own avatar and made the learning curve seem to be not a problem. In 10 minutes, some students were able to create objects in virtual world. They were excited and started to be creative. However, because the purpose of the lesson was not for them to conduct a science experiment, I need to stop them from their self-directed exploration of the virtual world and was not able to see what else might happen. Below are the lessons I learned from the workshop. I divided them into 5 sections, including technology preparation, diverse culture background, avatar differentiation, volunteer training, and teaching and learning in the virtual world. Technology preparation. Land an object must be set to eliminate the potential to create and modify. Since Sunny was using the student account to create virtual experiment object, I did not close any of the function on the virtual LAN. However, using student account to create this was not a wise decision. Teachers and students should have different permissions in the virtual world. Only with different permissions will students be prevented from changing, modifying, deleting what the teacher has set up. Access to other lands need to be banned. Students were able to, in a very short time and without guidance, control and navigate their avatars. They found that they were able to fly and started to travel to other regions in the virtual world. Since the virtual world is expensive and attractive to many students, restricting students' travel abilities will help them focus on their mission and goal in the virtual world.
So do you think it's happening?
17 users in one region was a heavy load for the region capability. For the OpenSync server, the maximum number of online users is 20. However, when 17 users came to the same region, the region load became very heavy. To solve the problem, teachers can create learning stations in different regions. In this way, students will not cluster in the same place. About the diverse culture backgrounds. In this class, students have very diverse culture backgrounds. One of the biggest concerns from the classroom teacher was that some of the students were very quiet in the real-world classroom. Also, because of students in the class were divided into different language groups, they had very little connection with other language groups, even all the students were able to use English to communicate with each other. In the virtual world, students greeted to each other and tried to understand who the avatar was and where they were located in the computer lab. Since all avatars looked the same, girls might use both avatar and vice versa. The students were interested in each other and wanted to chat with each other and get to know each other. This might be a one-time event in the virtual learning environment. Students might get back to their language group after they realize who is controlling which avatar. However, since typing in English could be easier than typing in their mother language, virtual learning environments might prevent the division between the divided language groups. Avatar differentiation. Since all the avatars look the same, some students try to make their avatar look different in order to be recognized by other students. Without guidance, some students learn to change their avatar's appearance in as little as 20 minutes. One of them made his avatar's hair purple. He announced to the class, "I am the purple-haired one." And some of the students started to change their avatar's other characteristics. They also asked me about the possibility of changing their avatar's outfit. At this point, avatar modification was not an expression of identity. The students were exploring what could be done with the avatar, as well as exploring ways to be recognized by their fellow students.
No, this is University of Idaho.
Volunteer training. This project including volunteers to assist with the process. However, most of the volunteers were not trained, and to be able to assist students, volunteers must know the basics of the virtual world. Volunteers should also know the basic idea of the lesson. Virtual world learning in science is actually very similar to real-world laboratory experiments. Teachers or tutors need to be with the student and needed to explain the experiment. If there is no other instruction, the
plausible.
virtual environment needs to be provided written directions
No, I
or
said
teaching
plausible.
videos so students can follow the process and learn from it. Teaching and learning in virtual world are actually not easier than the real
What's gonna
world.
make my day?
Preparation for teaching in the virtual world may even take longer than in the real world. Educators wanting to use the virtual world for education need to know the students' possible skill level in virtual world, as well as their prior knowledge and level of familiarity with the course contents. Educators need to know the possibilities of virtual world and be able to envision how the course will
Something.
proceed.
Oh, somebody landed on.
Sunny is a passionate educator. Prior to this project, she had very little experience in the virtual world. During the process, it was not easy for her to envision what could be achieved in the virtual world and why she wanted to use the virtual world for certain projects. Because this was Sunny's research project, I acted as a consultant. I did not ask for her lesson plan or for her goal in using the virtual world. From the participatory observation, I found several important issues that should be noted for future education in the virtual world. Sunny's full research project includes in-class lectures, real laboratory experiments, and virtual world experiments. Virtual world lesson planning should be as solid as real world lesson planning. We can use the virtual world as a real classroom. Students can do big group and small group discussions and collaborations. However, students need guidelines to know what they should do just as in the real world classroom. Imagine a science classroom with experiment materials on a lab table without guidance. Most students would put the material together to see what would happen without knowing the reasons. A similar situation can be imagined in the virtual world. If the experiment equipment is set up and ready for use, but students are given no instruction and all they do is clicking on the virtual lab materials, then the student would not understand why they were doing the activity. Guidelines are necessary for students to learn, and these guidelines should be included in the lesson plan. Study sheets, follow-up quiz, or discussion make the activity more meaningful. Because virtual world education can be immersive, it becomes very important to assess students' learning. When students know to expect a study sheet, quiz, or virtual world discussion after the lab activity, they may pay closer attention to what they are learning in the virtual world instead of just being entertained by the environment. Students asked about the possibility of doing things, but did not ask how to do things. From my previous experience, adult learners like to ask how to build things instead of reading a tutorial handout or watching a tutorial video themselves. However, in this case study, the young students were self-directed learners. It was very interesting to see how these young students asked questions. They did not want me to show them how to do certain things. Instead, they asked me the possibility of doing things. While volunteers left the research website open on each computer, students found the tutorials and started to learn from them. It was worthwhile to do more research on how young students learn a new technology. There are many tutorials on how to do things in virtual world can be found in the research website. Conclusion. For me, the virtual world should not replace real-world classroom, and the virtual world can be used as a teaching aid for real-world education. There are many possibilities in the virtual world for education. Based on this participatory observation case study, I think educators who wanting to use the virtual world for education need to know the students' possible skill level and their prior knowledge with the course content. Educators need to know the possibility of the virtual world and be able to envision how the course will proceed. That's all for my presentation today. Thank you for listening. I think it's time for us to have some discussions. If there are any questions or comments.
Some questions. No questions, no comments. That's not good. Oh yeah. Come on, people. Finish your pizza. Ask her something. No. I mean, supposedly. Yes. Oh, finally, someone.
Yeah, Marilu, I totally agree. I need to say OpenSim is not as stable as Second Life, and uh, that's that's the thing that we are still trying to improve about this OpenSim. But yeah, comparing with using Second Life or OpenSim for the younger age student, I will still prefer to use the OpenSim. Jackson, I think, yeah, it is possible to have students take a specific course in running Second Life before the classroom activity takes place. Uh, for this project, the Sunny was she had a real life the hands-on workshop prior to the virtual world workshop, and but it seems not related things. Um, uh, yeah, I'm not sure that how the students they feel and think about the real world one, but yes, I think that would be a good idea to do that. Yeah. Oleometry, that's my next research project. I'm some of my students, the grad students, they are trying to create their learning environment for their students, just like a gaming environment. The student, whenever their student get into the environment, they don't need any guidance. They just get into the virtual world, and while they are playing, they will discover and learn through the process. Yes, so maybe next year I can do some presentation on that. Uh, by the way, that's a very good question. Did any of the seventh grader complain that they did not like using the virtual world? I think because of the time that we are in the virtual world was very short, so they didn't complain yet. I guess maybe if we using the virtual world for longer time, maybe I can hear some complaining. But during the workshop, right after the workshop, when they were leaving, they mostly I heard that they are excited and they are happy that they got the chance to see the virtual world. Yeah, the gaming environment design is not an easy one. So when I'm guiding my grad students to create their what I say is teacher-free learning environment, it was pretty hard for them to even envision that because most of the grad students they don't really have the immersive game experience. So when I'm telling them to design their lessons into a game, it's kind of hard for them to even just envision that. So uh, my these days the newer research design is to have high school students to create their own learning environment and they can play in each other's environment and learn different subject areas. And I don't know how it will work, and I don't know even if it will work. But yeah, we will see. Maybe I will present that next year. Yeah, like Mary Lou said, that students they can be very creative. They can learn very fast, and um, it's just amazing to see what kind of creativity mind they have and how they do the things in the virtual world. I think it's just uh, it was a really eye-opening experience for me to see the students that they are able to do so many things that I need to spend so much time with the adult learner, and they just uh, they just get it. Is anyone here that also use the virtual world for younger age students in the audience? What's your experience and what do you think about this kind of experience? I'm uh, can you compare the experience that when you are teaching the adult student and younger age student? Um, what are the differences and similarity do you think? For me, that I think it's pretty different. Yeah, that's so true. They have no fear. Yeah, they don't care what will be deleted or modified. Oh, by the way, the experiment that I set up for the student to experience, that some of them was deleted by the students. I need to put them back on while during the workshop time. And some of the students, when they were playing the egg shrinking and enlarge experiment, they directly use the building tools to enlarge and shrink the eggs. So it's just very interesting to see that what kind of things they can do. And what kind of things that is in their mind. It was a very fun experience. Halfway, that's so true. That yeah, I didn't designate the time for that, and I think yeah, that's a necessary thing to do. That because some of the students they just flying out, and then I I was telling the student, I say, hey, come back to here. That the things are not there, and they say, no, I saw the things out there. I say, you didn't know the world. I'm the person who create the world. And they say, no, but I just see that there, so I need to go there. They just want to explore the world, and without I without even consulting with anyone, anything. Yeah, yeah, so many things can happen, and yeah, I'm happy of opening the avatar design. Or the avatar I designed was very simple ones, so nothing will be shown and no real dangers there. Uh, I I did try to see the virtual to see the account login, but no, they're actually the students. They didn't come back to the open things because there are many technical issues that they need to be able to solve first. For example, they need to download the browser. They need to set up the region, the login URI, and those kind of things. That I think those kind of things prevented the students to come back in. But I believe if I deliver a lesson on how to do it, I think many students will come back because they were really excited and they really want to do that. Literally, I cannot agree with you more. It's so true. They were very happy and they were learning with each other. By the way, their homeroom teacher was very surprised that the student they were chatting and talking to each other because that was something that never happened in their real life classroom. They were like small groups in a big classroom. So it's very interesting to see the virtual world change the how the students learn and interact with each other. If there is no more questions or comments, I think maybe I should say that's it for my presentation today. And if you want to talk more on using virtual world for education or uh, for adult or younger age students, then yeah, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for being here today. Thank you.